From the Academy Award-nominated director of Cartel Land comes a harrowing true story of Marie Colvin, the most celebrated war correspondent of our modern time, starring Rosamund Pike as Colvin and Jamie Dornan as war photographer Paul Conroy as they set off on the most dangerous assignment to a city in war-ravaged Syria in A Private War. Now playing on View the Right Thing with Wes and Chris.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of View the Right Thing. We're doing another now showing mini episode, and I'm super excited because I finally tricked my buddy Christopher Lamb into joining me. Say hi, Chris.
Hi, everybody.
So, nobody knows who you are, really. I mean, I've probably talked about you in some episodes, but since you've never been on, people are like, I don't know.
What the hell is this guy?
Yeah, what is this all about? So, you and I have known each other since
2001.
2002. We have a disagreement on this. I believe 2002. Oh boy. We've
went to school together.
Went to school together. We've lived together. Multiple times in multiple cities.
Times in multiple cities, yes.
We've worked together. We've been struggling artists together. So yes. It's been really strange. Like Chris is my best friend. There's Desi and then there's Chris. And so it's been really strange not having Chris on, but I finally I pretended that I had sweet treats here, and then he showed up thinking they were sweet treats, and really it was just a recording device. So it's tricked, and we have him. So you're totally excited to be on the episode, right?
Ecstatic.
Yeah, you can swear too. I knew you were unsure if you could swear. Yeah. We have it listed as explicit on here if you want to. Right. I mean, we don't do it a lot. But,
no, yeah. To be natural.
So we're going to talk a little bit, but once we get to the movie, that you can do spoilers. Generally, what we try to do is first talk about whether we like the movie, whether we would recommend people spend money on it. Once we kind of get that out of the way, that way people can listen at least up to that point and make a decision about whether they want to go see the movie. And then we'll get into spoilery things. And they've had their opportunity. Okay. They've heard our basic opinion about it, and then we'll go from there. But first, can you tell people a little bit about yourself? Like, what do you do for a living?
I light in TV and movies, for TV and movies.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for in the union world for just about 2 years now, and I've been in the business for 11 years. Yeah. So I've been on sets for a long time. Yeah.
Anything, any particular movies or TV shows that you're especially proud of that having worked on that people might recognize?
I worked on Ballers season 3. That was probably the most fun I've had on set on a TV show.
I saw videos of you dancing on that set, so you must have been having fun.
Yep. There's even an Instagram post with me and The Rock. I'm sitting down while he's doing a little Instagram post.
That's awesome.
But movie-wise, Dolomite Is My Name is probably the biggest thing I've done.
Do you know when that's coming out?
I don't. I worked on a movie called Bird Box that's coming out in December.
It looks awesome. It's Amazon or Netflix?
Netflix.
Yeah. It's going to be a really short theatrical thing and then go straight to Netflix, isn't it? I think? Within 2 weeks?
I don't, this isn't confirmed on my end, but Netflix does at least one day in the theater.
Okay.
That's what I've heard. And then it goes to streaming. But so yeah, if I'm waiting for the email so I can go see it in the theater.
Oh man, it looks the trailer looks really good.
Yeah, it looks very engaging, very unique film.
Who's in it? It's Sandra Bullock. John Malkovich, right?
Yep, John Malkovich. Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. There's the love interest in that. I forget her name.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot her name too. She was in Along Came a Spider.
Yeah, she's kind of blowing up right now.
Is she?
Yeah.
It's Sarah Paulson.
Sarah Paulson.
It's Sarah Paulson's in it. She wasn't in Studios. Oh, she was Studio 60?
Yes.
I'm thinking of the other girl.
Amanda Peet?
No, I'm thinking of a girl from a different show.
Okay. Well, she was in Ocean's 8, I believe, with
I heard
Sandra Bullock as well.
That's awesome.
I haven't seen yet, which I'd like to see.
Yeah.
But Bird Box should be a lot of fun. I day played on that movie. I wasn't a regular, but
I got a Quiet Place kind of vibe out of it.
It's the opposite though.
Yeah. Instead of hearing it's about seeing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, me too.
The trailer was so good.
Yeah.
It's funny because you talked to me about it a bit, and then I think probably partially by design, and maybe I didn't want to know too much about it, but you didn't tell me a ton about the movie. No. And I didn't even know John Malkovich was in it. You never even told me that. So when I saw the trailer, I was like, that son of a bitch never told me that John Malkovich was in this movie.
Well, I never saw him because I day played on it. So
gotcha.
I only saw bits and pieces.
I'll let it go. I guess.
But Dolomite Is My Name is probably going to come out early in the fall. I'm April.
Oh, next year?
Yeah, next year.
Oh, okay.
That's my guess. Because I did those movies months apart from each other, so that's probably...
And then so some stuff that's already out that people can see. You did like Nightcrawler. You were on. There was something else that I thought of the other day, but then I can't remember what it was. Can you talk about what you're on now, or is that like not you're not supposed to talk about?
Yeah, I can talk about it. I'm on a TV show called What If. It's a Warner Brothers Netflix TV show. I guess I don't know how much of it I can talk about.
Sure.
But, it's...
You probably say who's in it, right?
Mike Kelly is the executive producer, the showrunner.
Yeah.
He did Revenge.
Which is one of my favorite series.
Yeah, so think if you like Revenge, you'll probably like this. There are twists and turns and soap opera-y storylines. And
yeah. Who stars in it? Are you allowed to say all that?
I don't know. Jane Levy.
I'm sure that's probably an okay. Can you say the main?
Oh, Renee Zellweger.
Yeah, I was like, I know the name, but
she's, I don't... she's number one. I don't know. It's again, if you've seen Revenge, it's gonna be very similar.
So it's gonna be a little
tone,
a little soapy and
very dramatic,
and mysterious.
Yeah, mystery, a little bit of thriller.
I'm super excited.
And and apparently I heard that. Well, actually, never mind. I don't know if I can say that. Edit that out.
I'm going to pry it out of you later on when we're not recording.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of who you are. That's pretty great. It's if you have any questions for Chris, you're not a huge social media guy, right?
No, I used to do the Instagram thing, but I don't post and I don't look anymore.
You just don't. Not because you don't like it, but more because it's just keeping up with it.
It's just not part of my world.
You have a good eye. He's a great photographer. He's got a really great eye. So if you have a question for Chris, if you want to know what Renee Zellweger likes to eat in her downtime no, I'm just joking.
I will not tell you.
If you have
know.
If you have any questions for Chris, you could tweet or Instagram message us at VTRT Movies. And I'll pass it on, and I know where he sleeps, so I can get the info out of him. So let's move on to some movie stuff. So we went and saw a movie today. There were trailers. You probably see trailers on occasion, anyways. So
yeah,
anything coming out that is just grabbing you.
Yeah, we saw a Green Book trailer today, which I was pleasantly surprised. Like I had no idea that's what that was about. That movie was about. I've only seen posters for it on the road, and I hadn't watched the trailer, but today, that looks awesome.
I've talked about it on the podcast before. Every time I see a movie now, I think we're kind of in that section of films now too of the year where Green Book's about to come out, so they're promoting it quite a bit, but also we're seeing a lot of like award winner type movies or movies that'll probably be nominated. So of course they're going to play a Green Book trailer in front of those things. And so I see it every time I go to the theater now, and it is the rare exception where I've seen a trailer a million times and I enjoy watching the trailer every time.
Every time.
The music is great. The performances look like they're going to be very engaging.
Yeah.
Mahershala Ali, I love that guy, and especially after Moonlight, like I'm just really excited to see the things that he's going to do. I like seeing him do things other than the bad guy. You know, he was the bad guy on Luke Cage, and he's the bad guy in the upcoming Alita, Battle Angel.
Okay.
Movie.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any of those. I haven't watched Luke Cage at all.
Oh, okay.
And what was the other one you mentioned?
Alita, Battle Angel. That's the new Robert Rodriguez. Oh, Moonlight.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, yes, Moonlight, Chris. I mean, just visually. I mean, Barry Jenkins.
That's what I hear.
The viewsters are gonna get just sick and tired of hearing me talk about Barry Jenkins, but I love him as a director. I think he's just so special, and
in his shot selection,
and the way he chooses to tell a story, and the sort of some really interesting choices he decides to make. Like, there's a really great scene in Moonlight where two characters are sitting in a diner having a conversation, and they play a song on the jukebox, and he actually played the song in the jukebox in the scene when they shot the scene. You never do that in a movie when you're making a movie. You always shoot it without the music, and then you add the music in post. And they don't sing to it or anything like that. It's just music that's playing while they're having a conversation. And that's just a really, like, to me, like a really brave, bold decision. But it lent this kind of authenticity. You know the characters are listening to this thing. You know, you can feel it when you watch the scene. So he does a lot of, like, really interesting things with that. He does beautiful things with color. And everything is thoughtful and rich, and you can tell a lot of planning goes into it. He's the kind of filmmaker that, like, I wish I could be not just that, but I'm also envious of him as a filmmaker because he grasps, like, high art in a way that I don't get. The whole, like, there's some filmmakers that I know that are, like, really into, like, French New Wave and all this stuff, and, like, I can appreciate it, but I don't really get it. I don't really, like, grasp onto it or love it. And Barry Jenkins is one of those artists that can do that, but he's also, like, a fantasy football guy, Yeah. Like, I'm just really impressed with him every time. He's got a new movie called If Beale Street Could Talk that also looks just fantastic. Every time I almost cried when I watched the trailer. Like, it's like the trailer is just so great, and it's like it's one of the trailers is mostly just like characters staring at the lens. It's something.
Well, that's something that's engaging about Game of Thrones too.
Sure.
I know we didn't aren't that's
a TV show. You said
that's a terrible segue, but
yeah.
But two people having a conversation,
sure,
is engaging.
Yeah,
and part of that is, the direction from the director.
Yeah,
and how he sees the scene playing out, and the tense moments, and the moments where you need to see their eyes or stay on their face and not have the camera deviate or cut away or
I find that to be brave also.
Not cutting away. Somebody who knows exactly what they have, mm-hmm. he or she has, and just forces you to, like, look at it from their perspective. They don't play it safe by cutting to a whole bunch of different things. Mm-hmm. I'm always really impressed, especially if it's like a two shots. I really, really like a lot. If they can hold a 2-shot for a long time, I really, I find that bold and engaging. Yeah. Keeps you in the moment.
So Green Book you're excited about.
Yeah.
That's only like a couple weeks away, I think.
Is it?
Yeah. It's this month. Pretty sure.
I've seen some other trailers and I should have written them down, but there's some good movies coming out, I think.
Oh yeah. Widows comes out. I keep talking about that
Widows,
on the podcast.
Yeah.
Stephen Queen's movie.
But a lot of performance based movies. Mm-hmm. Not so flashy.
Yeah.
But like Queen, we saw the Queen of Scots.
Oh yeah, Mary Queen of Scots.
Queen of Scots, and that seems very much like a performance film. Like,
yeah.
It's. I mean, the story is the story, but the performances kind of feel intense.
Yeah, I think there's another one coming out called The Favorite which Desi recently has mentioned on the podcast that she's really excited about, which is Yorgos Lanthimos' new movie. He did like The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer. So his movies are about tend to, when you watch them, they tend to be very visually striking, but also very much a personal, intimate, character-driven thing. So it's really about the people, and that one is I'm not sure which queen it's about, but it's also another like queen and her handmaids thing. It's a Rachel Weisz, Emma Stone, and Olivia Colman, and it looks really great, but it also looks fun and funny. So it's interesting.
That's cool.
Mary Queen of Scots I think looks great. I think I'm excited for Margot Robbie maybe.
Oh, right.
Doing something different.
Yeah. Very true. She looks different and amazing in this.
Yeah.
Like she's, if you've seen her in, what the heck did she do?
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And,
Focus. She did Focus. Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah. So she's showing a little bit of range.
Yeah. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. We saw the Rocketman trailer.
Yes.
I do remember that now. Just this very moment. Which I'm super excited about.
Yeah. Me too. I think it looks maybe like it's going to actually be a proper musical with like dancing and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that.
And a little fantastical.
Yeah.
Like out of this world, not like the way you might feel about the music as opposed to the reality of the world.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. It looks great.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I liked Bohemian Rhapsody, I thought it missed an opportunity to do some things like that. I think if it had been a more proper musical, I might have enjoyed it a little bit more, but
I have not seen that one yet.
So there's just I don't want to spend too much time because we're talking about so many of those movies. But there's one that I had never seen a trailer for called Head Full of Honey, which was the Nick Nolte movie. And I can't tell if I thought it looked like it was going to be a good movie or not, but it looked like something I wanted to see. So it's Nick Nolte, Emily Mortimer, Matt Dillon. Apparently Claire Forlani is in it. I didn't see her in the trailer.
I didn't see her in the trailer, yeah.
There was a young girl in it as well. I'm not quite sure who she was. But interestingly, what I thought...
Oh, the granddaughter?
Yeah, the granddaughter, yeah. But the thing that really caught me off guard is that it's directed by Til Schweiger, the actor from like Inglourious Bastards and stuff.
Okay.
He's Atomic Blonde. I'm looking at his thing right now. Muppets Most Wanted. He was a German cop. Like he's like a dude who always plays kind of like a bad guy, like a big tough bad guy. And just this idea that he's directing this, what looks like maybe a very personal story about loss and grief, but also about coping with getting older and being sick.
And how it affects everybody.
Yeah. It looks like it'll be touching and sappy.
Yeah.
I think that's why I want to see it. But because I'm such a sucker for sappy, I'm unable to gauge whether I think the movie's going to be good or not. Just because I like something, it might be a bad movie, but I still like it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It seems like a worthwhile movie to watch.
Yeah. It'd be worth a shot at least.
Yeah. Head Full of Honey.
Head Full of Honey. Eric Roberts is in it apparently. Okay. So let's move on to the main attraction. Oh boy. A Private War. Which is the true story of Marie Colvin, who is a foreign correspondent for the Sunday Times in England, and her kind of incessant need to constantly put herself into the most dangerous of situations. If maybe you don't know the name, but maybe you might know what she looks like. She's a pretty famous journalist who had an eye patch. And the way she wrote was striking to people because it helped people understand the political machine in other countries and how that affected other people. She sort of like brought that home and made it identifiable and understandable for people. So it's kind of, she won lots of awards, and that's kind of who she was. So let's kind of get into it. So first off, the first question is, did you like this movie?
I love this movie.
I did too. I really love the movie. All right, so we'll hold off the reasons why we loved it.
Okay.
But I like to hear that. So you would recommend, for the average person, you would recommend this as a ticket?
You should absolutely go see this movie.
$15.
Everybody should go see this movie.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because, where a lot of people listen, tickets aren't that expensive. But here, you go at night, it could be a $20 ticket. So you're good with a $20 ticket.
It's worth $20.
I agree. I actually agree. I just wanted to not say my opinion right away. Let you kind of say what you thought. But it hasn't been out. It's only been out on a limited release. So we're kind of talking about it early. I think it's an award nominee. So we're going to start talking about it, and there probably will be some spoilers. It's a true story, so any spoilers we talk about you may already know anyways. But if you want to go into this completely untainted, go see it and then come back and listen to the rest of this episode. But let's get into it. What did you love about this film? What were the things that really grabbed you?
I think throughout our conversation, I'll have more to say.
Yeah.
But do
you want to start with Rosamund Pike?
Not necessarily.
That's where I want to start. Okay, what do you want to start with?
I don't. The reason why I love this movie so much, it was just engaging. Everything kind of stopped. Mm-hmm. From the first shot, it was because the first shot kind of sets up the tone of the film right away.
Yeah.
In how deliberate the movie is.
Yep.
So
when it comes full circle, you just really, it really strikes a chord.
Yes. Yeah. And you kind of go backwards in the movie that you just saw and try and figure out things that, not trying to give anything away, but
we'll give it away a little bit later. But
yeah, a little bit later. But this is very much a performance piece.
Yeah.
Stanley Tucci's in it.
Came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, the Tucci.
And I like that he's a name and he's recognizable, but he wasn't a huge part of it.
He wasn't in the trailer, I don't think.
I think he showed his face once.
Oh, really? I don't remember him in the trailer, so
maybe not.
It was not memorable for me. So that means they didn't focus on him in the trailer, which is great.
Yeah. But there were some surprising performances by some actors that you would not think, based on what they've done before, were they would.
Well, let's go to Rosamund Pike, and then we'll talk about who I think you're talking about. So, so Rosamund Pike is Marie Colvin, and this was a long time coming for her. I think I've seen her in numerous things and always been she's really great. I wish she could do more. And the one standout that I can think of is Gone Girl, where it was she had a lot more to do psychologically, but performance wise, she's not in the movie enough to really I don't know, to really own it as much. This, she owns every second she's on screen.
Every single second. Yeah.
She is so freaking believable. I feel like she became she got the voice down too.
She got the voice down. Yep.
There's a moment where you hear some voiceover of Marie Colvin,
and you think it's her.
I absolutely thought it was her, and then when they revealed that it was the actual woman, I was blown away.
Yeah,
absolutely blown away.
I was pleasantly surprised by that.
So we'll get into some more subtleties about her, but I did want to just, before we started talking too much about other actors, I wanted to give credit where credit was due, because she really drove the movie.
Yeah.
And without her, none of these other performances really matter.
Yeah.
So, but
agreed.
The person that you want to talk about, I think.
Well, I mean,
other performances?
there is in terms of everybody did an amazing job. Tom Hollinger, right?
Yeah, I didn't really know him.
He's in
Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh, he's the bad guy, and he's one of the Englishmen in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, he's a very good bad guy. He's in
he's in Bird Box.
Le Carre. He's in a Le Carre TV movie called The Night Manager. He does a really good job.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay.
He was... Okay, so...
I didn't see that.
Not really a big spoiler, but he basically plays Miami Beach. So anybody who's seen it, if you understand who Miami Beach is, then that's him.
But he plays a supporting role that carries the film, carries who this person is, who Rosamund Pike or Colvin is.
Well, they flip the relationship on their head too, I think, which is interesting. Normally, you have these movies about the press, and you have, usually the news editor is like pushing them to do the wrong thing, pushing them to be in a dangerous situation. And this guy, pretty much the whole movie, is like, yeah, we want it for our readers. So if you're going to do it, great. But you really shouldn't do this. You really need to come home. You really need to be safe. You really need to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and that's something else that I loved about this film was it's very, very honest.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
brutally honest.
It brutally honest. Like, it doesn't really pull any punches. It says what it needs to, so you get the right information.
Yeah.
And that's very much the way Marie Colvin was.
Well, and I want to clarify that too, because you're 100% right that the movie doesn't pull any punches. But I think sometimes when people hear that about a movie, they think the movie is like overly aggressive or is going to be brutal. And it's brutal in its information, but it's not visually like... I didn't find the movie to be sappy. I didn't find the movie to be over melodramatic or anything like that. I felt like you were saying it's very true. So I just want to clarify for people that it's not one of those like it doesn't pull its punches. It just, like what you were saying, I think it just tells the truth. It tells the truth, and that's what she was all about. Yeah.
It's not about the watching, a helicopter land and with caskets or with people coming out of it or machines or whatever. It's about the human story and the truth of that story, and that's very much the way she's portrayed.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think he even has a conversation with her, and she kind of is fighting with him, and she's like, I'm going and seeing this thing that you're not seeing. I'm going and seeing it so you don't have to see it. Yep. But what I think, I don't know if the real woman missed this or, if this was intentional, but maybe what is missing there is that she thinks that she's seeing it so we don't have to. But the reality is she presented it in a way that we understood it and we were able to see it ourselves through her lens, through her words, in a way that like hits home to people. And like we keep talking about how it's a very like relatable and personal thing. The way she spoke and the way she wrote was like beautiful prose. It was
poetry in a way.
Yeah.
There were moments in the film that felt very poetic, and not in a I don't know, not in a poetry way, not in a way that
snobby way, or
not
anything.
In a snobby way, not in a like, oh, I'm reading poetry, or I don't know. I'm not saying this right. Probably.
No. I know exactly. Well, I want to add to it just because I think I know. There's a moment in the movie when she has an interview with Anderson Cooper, and I remember thinking at the time, like, I need to go back and look up this interview on YouTube to see if it's on YouTube, because I want to see it for myself, because it sounds scripted almost. Because she knows exactly what she wants to say, and she knows exactly how to hit you where you live, and make it understandable and explainable. And it's almost like, was she that eloquent in real life? Like, and that's, I think, kind of what you're talking about, is like she's so like, she tells the story with everything she says, and it sounds almost like it's always prepared. She had a great mind. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Paul in the film.
Yes, Paul.
Jamie Dornan, who is somebody...
Jamie Dornan.
I don't I recognize, but I don't know that I've seen him in anything. All I knew is that he's the 50 Shades of Grey guy.
Right.
So I would not expect anything out of this guy.
Right.
I would not expect the performance that he gave. And man, I was blown away.
Yeah, it was nuanced. It was genuine, vulnerable, very vulnerable, and funny in places.
Yeah, he was a good balance to her, I thought. I kind of wish we had got... That may be my one criticism for the film, is I kind of wish we got more of their relationship, more of their working relationship together.
Yeah, that's certainly one of mine as well. I would have liked to seen Tucci in it more too, but that wasn't as much of an important part of the story as it... but you're right, their relationship... Paul's relationship to Marie, I think, is for her kind of the heart of how she kept going. Even though she kind of would be able to keep going no matter what, no matter who was on her side. But he, I don't know.
Well, he, it's like I want to say some things, but I don't want to give him too credit and give her too little credit. But in some ways, I felt like he kind of helped save her life early in the film, in that she was losing her mind. He definitely helped save her career, and she needed to be in a health facility. And he was there to visit her, and I think like the conversations that they had were very eye opening. She has the scene where she talks about the psychobabble, like why she is the way she is, and
that might be one of the more important parts of the film.
Yeah, and his involvement in that, I think, can't be overlooked.
Yeah, and I think part of what the movie was saying was she needed somebody in her life that didn't want anything more from her than just going through life with her.
Yeah, trust.
Yeah, the trust that you can't find in a broken relationship, and the trust that you can't find in an editor that wants you to do more, not do, or not always be on your side. There's a trust in friendship and family that I think he gives her that nobody else does.
Yeah, well, and he wasn't alcohol, right? Like.
He had his own demons, yeah.
Yeah, well, and she used alcohol and sex and sort of all of her relationships as a way of, like, brushing things off. Like, she has a very close friend who she visits her daughter, and they go on a sailboat together, and there's a really great scene. Actually, I'll come back to that in a second, where they have dinner. She even uses that as an excuse to kind of brush her trauma away and ignore that. She uses all of these relationships, whether it's sexual or work or friendship, and alcohol as a way to completely numb the pain that she's going through. And I think kind of what you're saying is, like, the Paul character wasn't that. He wasn't the thing that numbed those things. He was the thing that acknowledged the trauma and
allowed him to come out.
Yeah. And I thought their relationship was portrayed very beautifully.
Yeah.
So going back to that scene, the dinner scene, there's a scene pretty early on. So Marie Colvin loses an eye, or loses the ability to use an eye. And they have a scene where they're joking about being a pirate and eye patches and stuff pretty early on. And I think it's funny, it's a really common thing to kind of, it's almost gallows humor. It's not about death, but it's about something dark, and you're sort of trying to, like, make light of a serious situation, because that's kind of how you cope. And but then there's this moment, and I thought this was a prime example of how subtle Rosamund Pike was in this film. Is, she's trying to pour the wine, her depth perception's off, and they're all having a lot of fun, and then she's staring in a mirror at herself, and she's broken. It's not not this facade that she's putting on for everyone else. You get those little glimpses, and it's very affecting.
Mm-hmm. There in that moment that you're talking about, the director, Matthew
Heineman, right?
Heineman.
Yeah, I think so.
He decided not to show us her face.
Right. Most of the film he doesn't.
For most of the film, yeah.
Yeah.
And we end up seeing her in her eye patch before we actually see her what happened to her. But I'm not entirely sure why he chose to do that, except to just let us take in the moment of her realizing that things are changing.
Yeah. I think the feeling I got was sort of what you're saying. Like, we're watching the character evolve. There's another device that I thought they used really well that was, like, when you think about it, is really obvious, but they did it in a very subtle way, is the movie starts in, like, 2003, roughly. It doesn't actually starts in 2012 and then jumps back, but I think it starts in, like, 2002 or 2003.
Yeah, something like that.
And then goes to 2012. When you go back before she's lost her eye, you could watch the technology progress throughout the film. Like, everything is sort of a countdown towards 2012. So it's, 9 years before home, then it's 7 years before, and then it's 3 years before, or whatever. And you can see the technology changing. Like, when she's at her desk, she's using this laptop, this blue screen of death thing, and yes. She's also got a huge freaking computer monitor next to her. And their phones change over time. And I remember the moment when she uses a smartphone for the first time in the movie. I remember thinking about that. And the advent of Skype being an important thing, and how they connect. It used to be like satellites, and
she embraces all of that.
Yes,
I think that's a really important part of that,
which is really interesting for a journalist.
Yeah,
because that was the advent of, like, killing print media, right? Mm-hmm. So it was really interesting that she you're right, she does. She embraces that, because there's multiple scenes where people have to fix her devices for her. But she doesn't just quit using them. Mm-hmm. She gets somebody to fix them, and then you're right.
She utilizes the people around her.
But as those things, just like those things change, I think we see her become, like, sort of like joking about the eye patch, and then utilizing it, and then you can kind of tell. I think she's utilizing it as a new facade, like building her brand that way. Being the tough reporter. And then at some point near the end, there's this shift where I think she's broken again. I think she's lost the guy that she thought she was trying to get back together with, and then she finds Stanley Tucci's character, and her friends are sort of starting to pull away.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to 2012, she's just not using, when she goes there, she's not using the eye patch anymore. No. And got a little notice on the phone there. So I think I got the feeling that was a gradual, like a progression thing.
Yes.
That's just where she was at that point.
Well, she when she finds Tucci's character,
yeah,
and she's embraced that, or she's allowed herself to be herself with that character, she takes it off with us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we see her undress,
decide to become completely vulnerable and completely open.
Yeah, and she does that for the audience.
She does that for the audience.
Yeah.
Which takes me back to when we didn't see her eye in the first place.
Yeah.
It makes me think that Matthew decides to not show us her eye because she's still guarded.
I think it's a great observation. I think you're right. Matthew? Mr. Heineman.
Mr. Heineman.
Please respond to us and let us know if we're correct. No, I think you're right. I think that seems very astute and very likely. So man, the only other thing I can really like point to that I really wanted to like just highlight, one of the things I loved about the film, visually, it's not like stylistically unique. It's not
no, yeah,
you know, kind of like you were saying, it's not about the sweeping helicopter shots landing in the Middle East or whatever, but there are moments where they allow where they just happen to actually just be beautiful. Early in she goes to Sri Lanka pretty early in the film, and I love that Stanley Tucci says it's sometimes hard to say Sri Lanka. I remember when she gets to the village and she's speaking with who she's interviewing, the rays of light just come streaming through the trees was really noticeable to me. But
yeah,
if they didn't focus on that, if they just happened, I mean, they probably manufactured that, you know.
Maybe.
I mean, you do that, right?
Yeah.
Manufacture stuff like that?
Sure. But, and this is, if you've ever seen a Bob Richardson film, that shot film, like Hugo, for instance.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Or any of Quentin Tarantino's movies.
Does he do Tarantino stuff?
He does, yeah.
Interesting.
He's very stylistic DP, and it's like hard lights and hard backlights and bright colors and deep oranges, bright blues, you know, like he's very stylistic. But in this film, it was all natural. Like everything about it was natural, and the way you would see a newsroom, as you know, the bolt holes coming through glass, you know, letting the light just stream through and not filling it in with anything else, or seemingly not fill it in with anything else, and the lights come streaming through the trees.
Well, I had a question about, maybe you know,
or the sun.
I was really curious about, there was one scene. A lot of this, I don't know where they shot it. A lot of it does look like it was shot in the Middle East, or shot in Syria, or wherever. And I was actually thinking about that during some of the Iraq scenes. I was like, man, where do you go to just blow stuff up? You know, like, where do you go that looks like Iraq to blow stuff up?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, but...
Ventura.
Right? There's a scene in Libya around the Gaddafi stuff. And I believe it's in the Gaddafi stuff. And she goes... that's where the journalists are attacked, correct? And she ends up sitting on the edge of the building outside her hotel room.
Yes.
And Jimmy Dornan comes out and he's sort of like trying to talk her down. And I remember the city, the shot of her sitting on the edge with Jimmy Dornan next to her, and the city, and thinking, did they light these buildings up? Like, how did they shoot this? Did they actually light it, or did they drop the camera down and light them to match, to try and be able to have the stuff in the background work? Like, I know this is a very technical thing on this podcast, which you don't normally do, but since you're here, like, what's your thought on that? Like, was that something you noticed in the film?
I did, yeah. It was, yeah.
Because there were buildings, like, way across the city that were big buildings that were lit up.
Yeah.
And I thought, how did they match that? How did they get all these things to be lit?
Well, my original thought was that they probably just green screened it.
Oh.
That whatever she was sitting on was there, and then everything else was green screen.
Oh.
And either they created it in post through CGI, or they shot plates for it. But
that makes me sad.
If it was on location, then yeah, chances are with Bob Richardson being the DP and the names attached to this thing, there's a very good chance that they lit that street.
Wow.
Like the stuff when we first see Paul come out and notice her, we see some stuff in the distance.
Yeah.
That makes me think that wasn't actually there. But once the camera moves into her profile and we see where she's actually sitting, like that street, that makes me think that was real, and they would have lit that.
It looked real. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that was green. So there's sometimes where you can really like, hey, that's green screen.
Right.
Yeah. But it didn't feel that way. It felt like she was there.
It felt like she was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like, we saw where things were, like the lights that were hitting them. We know we saw those lights, like on that rooftop. It wasn't super clear exactly where she was, how high she was, but when the camera moves in and we see where she is, everything else is revealed. Like, what is lighting her? It's not a light on the ground pointed up at her. It's part of the facade of the building.
Yeah.
You know, the naturalness of their environment, I guess, which is it could just be me thinking that, you know, looking for butterflies when I see a zebra, or the other way around, or whatever.
The little Occam Fraser thing.
Yeah, but you're in this space with them, and what you see is what you get. There's no there's no unnatural backlight. There's no there's a reason for everything you see.
Yeah.
And what we're supposed to be paying attention to is Rosamund Pike sitting on the ledge with the expression on her face, thinking that she's feeling a certain way. But maybe what's happening is, you know, what's happening in the distance is just adding to the defeat that she feels, or the responsibility that she feels.
Right.
That's very much a motif in the film. But I don't know. It's a movie that you would watch multiple times, I think. Like, you watch it once to and you get a sense of it, and then you watch it again to find those nuances that tell the story even more.
Well, it's funny you say that, because there is something about it that made me want to watch again, and that was her clothing. Not when she's on the job, but when she comes back and she's at these like award shows and stuff where she's getting an award and she gets like all dolled up. It's so interesting because it feels like that's part of her duty, that's part of her job, but it also feels very unnatural for her. Like, it seems really out of place and strange. And then later in the film, here's a bit of a spoiler, after that scene, actually, you find out that she's wearing this like really expensive, fancy, I think he refers to it as a fancy bra, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And she's like, it's Perla or whatever. I don't know what that is. I'm a guy and I don't know. And I have no fashion sense. Not that guys can't know about this stuff. It's I have no fashion sense. And this is sort of like, I think she says something like, if they're going to pull my corpse out of the ground, then I want to look good, or I want to look fantastic or something. So I thought that was interesting. And so once you know that, it sort of like, in a way, makes me want to look back at those other scenes where she was wearing fancy clothes and just see, like, did she feel like she was in her own skin? I wasn't paying close enough attention to it then, because I didn't know it was maybe a thing. So, I think you're right. I think it's definitely a movie you watch again. I'm going to wrap it up, but I have one more question about the movie for you. Okay. Well, two things. Anything else you want to talk about regarding the movie?
Yeah, I think this film is important for everybody to see.
Yeah.
I think it's another motif of the film is the act of caring about what's happening around us and the activism that comes along with it. Like, it's not enough to watch the news. It's not enough to read the news. It's, if you care about something and are passionate by an idea or a pursuit, you take action. And like, her action is about getting in there. Marie's action is about getting in there and telling the stories of the individuals and not making it about what's gonna make a company money. It's about, it's about the real life experience of what's happening every single day that we don't see.
She knew something that we didn't, and she had a need to make sure we knew about it.
And she had a need, yeah. Yep.
A desperate need, not just like...
an obsession.
Yeah, an obsession, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question for you. So we'll try to be fairly vague, but did you know much about the story going in?
I knew nothing about this.
So you didn't know like how it was going to begin, middle, or end?
Nope.
Knowing that it's like a kind of a famous reporter and stuff, and that it's a true story, would you recommend people go into it blind? Like, is that something that you think lended to your enjoyment? I mean, I knew going in how it was all going to turn out, but I still love the movie, so I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. I don't think so. I think if you're interested in this, you should know as much about it as possible.
Right.
I think knowing what happened is gonna take away from the movie's story
and the
point of the story.
Right.
I think if anything, it'll add to it because you'll know more about her than not having seen anything about her, I guess. From the beginning though of the movie, when we go back in time to 2003, like from moment one that we meet her, she's engaging and she's bringing us into the world that we're about to see. And that's something else about the film that I really loved was the entire film is from her perspective. Like, we stay with her through everything.
Yeah.
And it's not just seeing what she's seeing. It's the camera is allowing us to be right next to her.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes what she went through and what everybody else around her went through that much more intense.
Right.
And engaging.
No, I agree. I totally agree. I would say just something to think about after having seen this film. I mean, maybe before, but definitely after having seen this film. There are 2 documentaries I recommend. One is a short documentary. It was nominated for Academy Award called The White Hats, I believe it was called. And then they made a full-length feature documentary that was nominated for an Academy Award last year called Last Men in Aleppo. Aleppo gets name dropped in the film. It is about civilians in Syria who are essentially stuck in the cities that are with other civilians that are being bombed and killed. And basically what they do is they wait for an air raid and they see where the bombs are dropping and they drive as quickly as they can and start pulling people out of rubble as quickly as possible to try to save lives. And it's just regular people doing this, volunteers. They could try to leave, but they don't. Both those, the short and the full length, are excellent documentaries, and I think sort of accentuates sort of what she's trying to get across in the film Private War, which is these are real people. These are not military, targets, for example. These are people that get affected by these political machines of war. So definitely recommend those 2 films. But yeah, that's it.
That's it.
You did it. First episode with me. Hopefully, maybe we'll do another one. You had an okay time, right?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, everyone. Bon cinema.